Alright, I'm going to talk about a movie, and it doesn't even need to warrant, it doesn't warrant enough attention or motivation for me to pull out my entire camera to talk about it, because let me tell you, this movie sucked. Obviously, there's going to be spoilers about it, because, well, I'm going to talk about all of it and everything that is just awful about it. The movie, I was absolutely hyped to see, but not hyped enough to go watch it when it was coming out. We went for Discount Movie Tuesdays. It was MIDSOMMAR. I think that's how you pronounce it. MIDSOMMAR. It was like, okay, so Jordan Peele himself, the guy who wrote Get Out and Us, he said it was good. He said it was scary. And now I know not to trust Jordan Peele when he reviews anything, because that movie was terrible. I hated it. I trust Jordan Peele as a writer, but let me tell you, that movie sucked ass. My younger sister, like, this is a horror movie, mind you, she thought it was the most boring ass movie. She was going to fall asleep during it. I wanted to believe and have faith in it, because I was like, oh, you know, like, we paid for this, we gotta stick it through. It was 2.5 hours long of sheer boring crap. It didn't have any, like, escalation in pace at all. The pace was the same thing the whole time. There was never any actual suspense aside from being like, oh, this culture is kind of weird. And the way they did characters was terrible. The world building, terrible. Okay, so the characters did not even act like real people. There was maybe like one instance where the person who, like, the main character, her like parents and sister died because the sister killed them or whatever. And there was one instance where she was like, she showed that she experienced trauma again from seeing someone else die, but despite the fact that she asked someone earlier in that film, she was like, what happens when you reach 72? And they're like, when they were watching them jump off of a cliff, like, before they jumped off the cliff, you could tell it was like a whole ceremonious thing, and shit never occurred to her to tell any of the other people, oh, hey, I think they're gonna jump off the cliff and die. Like, they said they die after they're 72. None of them. They seemed completely surprised, despite the fact that 3 of those characters were right there. And then, what and then? Okay, so there was this couple, and then one of them leaves the other one, and it's like, the wife was like, oh, why would he leave without me? And, like, you could tell that one of the people who tried to explain to her that why he left without her, he was trying to explain it, but it wasn't even done well, and he was like, he couldn't get away with it. But also, like, there was no reason that, one, they could have not just left whenever they wanted at night. 2, that any of them would have just believed that. They all came on this trip together. Not like maybe those 2 were a separate unit, but they were engaged. So you wouldn't think they'd be like, oh, okay, he left without telling me, he's not answering his phone, he wouldn't call me. You would think they would have the decency to be like, oh, that's kind of weird, like, we should probably go look for him, right, guys? No, none of them did that. And then when the girl disappeared, who was married to that first guy, disappeared, no one had anything to say about it, and the excuse was, oh, she left in the truck again. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then the world building, I get that there can be fear in ambiguity and stuff like that. Like, I get that it's like, oh, not knowing why any of this happened is scary in its own sense, but the whole thing was like, it was under the guise of like a cult and or ceremonious thing, and it was still done really bad. Like, I wanted to hope that it would be good, and I didn't. I really hoped. So I actually had pretty good hopes for the movie. We paid $5 per ticket, or $5.50 per ticket for that movie, and honestly, I would not even be satisfied with my money back, because that was a whole 2.5 hours of wasting my time. The only redeeming factors was maybe the music. The music was really good, but I think it would have been pretty anyways, because it was like in Swedish or whatever. The art it was very artsy. It was really like, it was a weird niche, like, interesting kind of artsy, but the movie was still like terrible. The actors, oh my god, the actors were terrible. Maybe kudos to the girl for being able to cry like four times during that whole film. Like, good for her, I guess. But none of them acted like people. They never were like when someone died, they were like, oh my god. And I get that they got drugged every now and then, but like, being drugged, like, what did that mean? And the ending of the movie, why did the main girl want the guy to die? And like, what does that mean after? Like, does she stay with the cult? Are they gonna kill her off too? Like, what the hell was the point of that whole movie? There was no message. Like, she was probably the most empathetic person, and I get that her boyfriend was literal actual trash, but you would think she would still have some moral decency, or even then she would have said anything. But she got the guy killed, I guess, is what the idea was. And the symbolism at the end was never really explained with the people who died. Like, two of the people, I don't really think they were addressed as to who they were. But the other people were like, they died, right? And one of them was like dressed as a jester, or as a jester. One of them was dressed as a bear. The two brothers who brought the people were killed themselves. And like, what the hell did that whole thing symbolize? I get that the area was sacred or whatever, but like, what the hell was the point of that? And the whole like having incest to create the next person who sees like the future or writes in the runes or whatever, what did that mean? Like, one generation of incest would not have the child that they had. Like, I get that there's some physical deformity, but this kid was like literally done grotesquely. And I think I can kind of respect the shock value for when they had like the cliff jumping scene, because that was pretty good. Like, the visualization for that was pretty good. And like, it was kind of annoying too, like with the whole story about it, because you could tell that things were gonna happen, and yet somehow the characters were completely oblivious and they wouldn't really act on it. Like, no one, it never occurred to anyone to just fucking bolt, to leave, to run away. They didn't do anything that a reasonable person, an adult, would. People who were writing theses for their like graduation and stuff, like, they did not, like, it was, the whole movie was, it was stupid. It was really a waste of money. And my sister herself was like, I can't believe they wasted such a badass title for such a shit ass movie. And I was like, I don't want to agree, but like, and honestly, like, if you appreciated the movie, I really don't get why, but you know, that's great. This, I told people that I do this, and I think people were kind of expecting it. So here, yeah, the review for Midsommar. That was it. Don't watch that. Oh, also another thing that pissed me off. Okay, so the movie Farewell with Aquafina, the Farewell with like the Chinese heritage and everything like that. It was advertised for that, like in that same theater for that. But it said this summer, and that movie came out July 12th, and right now it is like July like 17th or something. And so, like, why would it say this summer if the movie literally already came out, for one thing, and two, came out maybe like a week or two right after that Midsummer movie came out? Like, why? Like, how was the whole Crazy Rich Asians such a success, but that was completely like washed over? Even the Downton Abbey movie got like a specific date when it was coming out, but the Farewell didn't, and it came out like 2 weeks after that movie aired. So I don't really get what, like, and I'm like, I don't want to scream racism or anything, but like, a movie about like whole ass Asian heritage and like the importance of that, with Aquafina, who was very like, from the pristine movie Crazy Rich Asians was in it, but they completely kind of washed over that for Midsummer. Like, what? I don't want to scream racism, but like, that seems kind of unjust.